All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to begin with our state expedited accusation calendar. My name is Judge Law, and this calendar involves misdemeanor criminal cases in which individuals have been recently arrested, have been recently formally accused by the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County. And this would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer. When I call your name, I will let you know what is your accusation number. What are the charges brought against you by the prosecutor? Give you a new court date if applicable, as well as set a bond. If you're a defendant charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say in open court about the facts or circumstances of your case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney if you cannot afford one. We have counsel from either the Public Defender's Office or the conflict defense list to represent you. Who do we have in courtroom 2, please?
Excuse me, Your Honor, before we get started, the reset date for the SAP calendar is going to be July the 18th.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Bridgewater.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
All right, position 2.
Good afternoon, Judge Law. This is going to be position number 8, Ms. Rodowski.
Okay. Right. I understand this is Ms. Radowski's first arrest, and in this particular case, Terry Radowski's, her case number is 23 CR 004164Y, accused of theft by taking from July 3rd, 2023. Ms. Radowski, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Ms. Bickerstaff, this appears to be her first arrest. What's your bond recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. The bond recommendation is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services, no further contact with Ms. Miranda Burren, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond, and to stay away from 655 Ethel Street. And just briefly, Your Honor, our office was able to speak to Ms. Burren today, and she let us know that she confirmed the events that were listed in the warrants. And she said that this occurred at a shelter and that she had just deposited her Social Security check and that $700 is now missing from her account, Your Honor. And she also let us know that her medication is missing as well. This is where the defendant took Ms. Burren's debit card and her clothes, and officers reviewed security footage that showed the defendant going into her items and take Ms. Burren's items and taking her things. And so that's why the state's recommendation is what it is.
All right.
And if Ms. Burren's on the Zoom, I'd like to sound for her.
Okay, Miranda Burns. Okay. I'm not sure if Ms. Radowski's completed her intake booking because I don't have an address or any kind of contact information on Ms. Radowski. So I don't know if I can give a signature bond if I have no way of reaching her. Ms. Kim, do you have any information?
About Miranda Berian, Your Honor?
Terry Radowski.
Okay.
Your client?
Yes, she is actually connected to our social security, I mean, social service, social worker service. Actually, we requested them to, I gave her First Presbyterian Church. They have a free mailing service where she can go and open up her mailing account. So we will have a contact through that.
Do you have that contact information to give us now? Because pretrial will need to interview and set it up so that we can reach her. Otherwise, it's impossible to contact them and give them a court date.
Yes, I can look it up really quick and then text out to everyone. Give me 1 second, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to set it up as a 3,000. Okay, we'll need just not only the mailing address, but if she has a phone number and an email, that would certainly help.
Okay,
I'm not, I mean, her thing is completely blank.
She has actually phone. It's at her victim's shelter, and it's called the Bull Ridge, Georgia Crisis House.
Mhm.
So she will go and get the number, and she will be able to give us a phone number. She has my phone number. She will call and let us know, but I'll double check with the address and then I'll get back to you.
I have the address, ma'am, if I may.
Sure.
It- First Presbyterian Church at 1392 Peachtree Street is where my mailing address will be.
1392 Peachtree Street.
Yes, ma'am.
Zip
First
code.
First Presbyterian Church, that I'm unsure.
And what's your phone number?
May I use the social worker's phone number for now? I don't have my
You can
phone.
ask the deputy to put in the chat and it will be directed to pretrial services. And Deputy Francois, can you also direct that to Miss Holly Bridgewater?
I will as soon as I get my phone, but I,
She doesn't have a number, she said.
but when I get my phone, I will, which
Okay.
it's gonna help me get.
These are the conditions to the bond. It's a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services. No further contact with Miranda Burren, and to stay away from 655 Apple Street in Atlanta, Georgia. Within 30 days of being released, Ms. Radowski will come to the clerk's office at the Fulton County State Court at 160 Prior Street and update the court with a current mailing address, a phone number and a phone number or an email address.
I do have an email address for you now.
Okay, you can give it to Miss Deputy Francois, and she can send it to in the chat to both I want Mr. Pretrial Howard Tucson Howard and to Holly with State Court.
And this would be purchased.
Yes, sir. All right, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and we will send notice to the Presbyterian Church, and it will be Miss Radowski's responsibility to make sure that she shows up in court. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. No problem. Hold on, I gotta get her, I gotta put her address, just write your address real quick. Hold on a second, have a seat over here to the side. Positions 5 and 6, Holloway.
All right. This is State versus Jesse Holloway, Jessie Holloway, common spelling. And Mr. Holloway is cited with two separate cases. The first case is 23 CR 004161J, cited for fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer and distracted driving or violation of the Georgia hands-free law. And this is from August 22nd, 2021. The second matter is 23 CR 004167. No, excuse me, 004167J. And Mr. Holloway is cited for willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer and failure to use the proper child or youth restraint while operating a vehicle. And this is from July 4th, 2023. Mr. Holloway, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. McLeod.
13
I know-
total.
Yeah,
2017 suspended license obstruction, suspended registration. 2010 suspended license conviction. That's it.
does he have a prior obstruction conviction of an officer?
I know it's an arrest. I'm not sure about the conviction.
This is from October 2017 in East Point. Okay,
Correct.
all right. Ms. Bickerstaff, what's your bond recommendation for both cases?
Yes, Your Honor, just briefly, I'm seeing that the defendant also has an open case in Superior Court, case number 19 SC 164617 for possession of controlled substance. That's 3 counts of that: hit and run, reckless driving, and driving with a suspended license.
Is that a probation case though?
I can double check to see if it's for probation or not.
19, you said 1365, or I'm sorry.
No, the last 4 numbers are 4617.
4617, okay.
Um,
I'm so sorry, no, okay, you're correct. No, there isn't a separate case on probation. No, that was, disregard that comment, okay.
So for position 5, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond, $1,000 for the willful obstruction, and $2,000 for, no, I'm sorry, this is the wrong bond recommendation. For position 5, the bond recommendation is a $1,500 surety bond, $500 for the distracted driving, and $1,000 for the fleeing or attempted to elude, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. For position 6, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond, $1,000 for the willful obstruction, and $2,000 for driving not having the child restrained properly, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. And just briefly, Your Honor, for position number 5, that incident occurred August 22nd of 2021. And this is where officers were patrolling the area and they observed the defendant driving with his phone in his hand. And so when officers commenced a traffic stop, and when the officer was going back to her police cruiser, the defendant took off. And for position 6, that incident happened yesterday, and officers were in the area and they saw the defendant. And so as they were coming near the defendant drove off, and they noticed that his daughter, who is about 4 or 5 years old, was not in a car seat. And when officers activated their sirens and pulled the defendant pulled over in an apartment complex, and then he ran out of the car. Officers were able to find him in the woods, but I would like to point out that he abandoned his child in the car. So that is why the state's recommendations are what they are for these 2 cases.
All right, thank you. Ms. McLeod?
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
My client is 40 years old. He has some college education, he tells me, but at the present moment, he's unemployed. He does live in the Atlanta metro area and has lived here for some time. He's the father of 10 children, and they all live with him. He provides for them, Your Honor. With respect to position number 5, this incident happened based on the allegations of the warrant approximately 2 years ago. With respect to the incident yesterday, my client tells me that he was not trying to elude the police. He'd actually gotten to where he was going when he stopped. He didn't see them trying to pull him over or anything, Your Honor. My client tells me that at the present time, he is not working. So I would ask the court to consider giving him a signature bond, given the nature of the charges that he has, Your Honor, so he can get out of jail and continue to provide for his children. He tells me that he has something lined up, which he hopes is going to start very soon in terms of income for him, Your Honor. Nothing.
On the position number 5, on the fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer, that's going to be $1,000 surety bond. The distracted driving is going to be $100 signature bond through the jail. So that's a $1,100 split bond. Position number 6 on the failure to use the child youth restraint, that's going to be $100 signature bond through the jail. The willful obstruction is going to be $1,000 surety bond. So that's a $1,100 split bond. Conditions to the bond are no driving unless you have a valid driver's license, adequate insurance, proper registration, and that you comply with all the pertinent traffic laws and rules. Next court date is going to be July 18th, 2023. If you make bond, please be sure that your address and contact information are current with the court, so you'll get your next court summons in the mail. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. That concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, Ms. McLeod, have a good week. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Same to you.
Judge Law, what was the total bond, the total amount?
For position 5 is 1,100 split bond. And position 6, same thing. So the total for both cases is going to be 2,200 split, 2,000 surety and 200 signature bond through the jail. Recent date, July 18th. Next case, please.
Position 1, BB.
Do we need a Spanish interpreter on any of our cases?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a seat, right? Put your mask up. Please.
Right, position 1, we have Roderick Beebe, accused of theft by shoplifting from July 3rd, 2023. Mr. Beebe, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Wills. I understand this is his 24th arrest cycle. Anything else to add, Mr. Howard?
He on probation for 2 different possession of marijuana with intent. 2020, 2018 probation violations. 2017 shoplifting conviction. That's it.
All right. Mr. Eggers, good afternoon. What's your recommendation for bond?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. The state in this case is recommending a $2,000 surety bond, a stay away from the incident location, which is the Champ Sports at 3393 Peachtree Road, Atlanta, and also a no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond.
Ms. Wills?
Judge, my client is 30 years old. He is a native of Georgia. He is currently unemployed. He has 2 children, and I would request a signature on bond. His bond is currently set at $2,000, and he is unable to afford that bond.
All right. Bond is set at $1,000 surety bond. Next court date is July 18th. And no further, well, stay away from the sports store at 3393 Peachtree Street. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
Position 2, Bell. Keep the mask up.
Michael Bell is accused of simple battery from May 30th, 2023. Mr. Bell's case number is 23 CR 004168F. Mr. Bell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Wills. Mr. Tucson, I'm so sorry, go ahead.
4th adult arrest. Last arrest was 2022. Unlawful carrying of a weapon that was dismissed. He does have open case in state court for marijuana possession of a pistol by a person under 18 years of age, and an open 2021 disorderly conduct trespass.
All right.
2022 failure to appeal.
Do you know which case he failed to appear?
No, I didn't type it.
Okay,
I have to look it up.
all right. Ms. Wills, excuse me, Mr. Eggers?
Yes, thank you, Honor. This case has occurred as an incident occurred May 30th of this year. It was at 2011 Reynolds Drive, Southwest Atlanta. Mr. Bell is fairly young, about 19. He was had been living at that location with his mother and his sister, but at that time was no longer residing there. However, his mother, Miss Monica Andrews, would allow him from time to time to come in and shower and clean up. And on this occasion, on that day, he went into his sister's room. He demanded her to unlock her phone and let him see it. When she refused, he grabbed at her hand, grabbed her neck and pushed her down to the bed. The victim screamed for help, and the mother, Miss Andrews, ran into the room. Mr. Bell left the location before the police arrived. The victim, his sister, is Rihanna Bell, is a minor. The mother of both, our office has spoken with her, is in fear of him, does not want him back, and says he has no items there to retrieve. Also, a strangulation assessment was conducted, and it was determined that the victim was unable to breathe for a period of time, and he gripped her about 5 out of 10 on the strength level. For that reason, we are asking for $5,000 surety bond, to stay away from that Reynolds address, no contact with the victim, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, and also one-day anger awareness course. And if Miss Andrews is on the line, we would like to sound for her at this time, the mother.
Ms. Andrews? I don't see anyone with that name. All right, Ms. Wills?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client is 19 years old. This incident did happen over a month ago, and as was stated, he no longer resides at that residence. He is willing to stay away and has stayed away, and is okay with not having any contact with his younger sister. He does deny the allegations as alleged. He states that he and his sister were having a conversation due to her behavior that she was exhibiting that he felt was inappropriate. And so he was trying to lead her in the right direction as her older brother. He works, but he still will qualify to be represented by the public defender's office. He also is suffering, or he is residentially challenged somewhat. And so I have requested that a social worker visit with him. I would object to the anger awareness course at this time unless a signature bond is granted and he can take that course through pretrial, as his income is extremely limited. He also has a failure to appear hold.
He does, yeah.
Yes, so I would hope that he would be able to be placed on the calendar, the earliest calendar. Thank you.
Okay. On the simple battery, Mr. Eggers, this wasn't charged as a DB matter. I'm not quite sure why, and it hasn't been upgraded to an aggravated assault strangulation. So we're going to treat this case as a misdemeanor simple battery, which is what he's been accused. The warrant says simple assault, but we're going to go with simple battery because that's all the prosecution has presented. The bond on the simple battery is going to be $2,500. It is a surety bond. He's to stay away from 2011 Reynolds Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, have no further contact with Rihanna Bell. He certainly can have contact with his parent. I think her name is Monica Bell, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Monica?
Monica Andrews?
Monica Andrews, excuse me, yes. But no contact with Rihanna Bell. He's to stay 200 yards away from her and that location, not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner, including no phone calls from the jail facility. He's not to possess any weapons or any firearms, not consume any illegal drugs, and no alcohol. Ms. Bridgewater, we are going to reset all 3 cases to the next SAP calendar, which would be this present case, 23 CR 004168F, along with the case in which he's got the bench warrant. The bench warrant was issued by Judge Richardson. His bond has been set at $4,000 surety bond for failure to appear at his jury trial calendar.
Yes, ma'am, I'll do it.
All right, and then the third case is the 23 CR ending in 2308F. So these are 3 open cases against Mr. Bell, which we will address at the SAP calendar on July 18th at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Got it.
Position 10, Thomas.
Rodney Thomas has got one charge against him for criminal trespass from July 4th, 2023. Mr. Thomas, this accusation would be 23 CR 4162F. And you've got 77 arrest cycles according to my pretrial report. And well, I'm just going to go straight to bond recommendation. Ms. Bickerstaff, unless you want to elaborate on it, I really don't need one.
Just quickly, Your Honor, this incident happened yesterday at the MARTA station at 7010 Peachtree Dunwoody Road. And this is where officers came to the station because they received a call that an intoxicated male was urinating on the train. And so when officers made contact with the defendant, they asked him whether he urinated on the train, and he said no. And then he said, well, I have to pee. And so officers escorted him off the property. And then moments later, they observed him peeing again at the MARTA parking, in the MARTA parking booth. And so when officers told him to stop, the defendant told officers that he had to pee, and officers then told him that he was going to jail. I would like to point out to you, Your Honor, that the defendant has an active suspicion with MARTA. It was issued on March 22nd of this year, and it is to expire April 23rd of 2024. So for all these reasons, the state's recommendation in this case is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services to stay away from 7010 Peachtree Dunwoody Road, and to comply with all MARTA suspensions, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Well, why do I need to exclude him from just one station if he's got an active suspension for all of them?
Well, I also additionally to comply with all MARTA suspensions. So it would be this one in particular and all others.
Okay. Ms. Kim, any objection?
Except that I would like to request for through the jail, because he actually is working with a PAD program, and I tried to contact her case manager, Ashley, but I could not contact her yet. However, he does have a place to go. He wants to go back to that program, so I think jail might be more effective.
Your Honor, just briefly, the state's recommendation to have his bond through pretrial seems more reasonable, considering that this defendant just pled guilty to a battery charge with Judge Morrow just 2 months ago, April 6th of 2023, and he's currently on probation for that case as well. So a signature bond through pretrial seems more reasonable.
That makes no sense.
I'm sorry, Mr. Howard, what was that?
Oh, my mic. Oh, my bad. I thought it was muted.
Bond is set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through the jail. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a signature bond which you can sign out through the jail. Why are you putting your hand up? And do you have something to tell me?
Yes, ma'am.
Please do not say anything. You got the best signature bond through the jail, please. You have nothing to say.
Well, I just wanted to state that I am not on probation. That case was closed.
Okay, you don't have to talk about anything else.
Mr. Thomas, you have 77 arrest cycles. Do you think I really care whether you're on probation or not?
No, ma'am.
Then why would you mention it?
Yes.
The only reason I'm granting a signature bond is because it's being recommended by the prosecutor, but I was looking at a $5,000 bond because apparently you do not know how to use a bathroom. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'll do better now.
Very good. It's a $3,000 signature bond through the jail. You are to stay 200 yards away from each and every MARTA station, bus station, or property, including their sidewalks and their parking lots, until April 23rd, 2024, which is next April. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. No.
You are not to return to any MARTA property, none, not the bus station, not the train stations, not the parking lots. And if you need to answer nature's call, do you know what that means?
Yes, ma'am.
You are to use a proper public restroom or the privacy of your own restroom. You are not to exhibit yourself in any kind of public way in order to relieve yourself. Otherwise, the state's completely it has its right to charge you with public indecency. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. I can't believe I'm telling a grown man how to use a bathroom, but this is all shame on you. Make sure you have a good address so that you can get your summons to come back to court. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Position 7, Lorenzo Neris. Lorenzana.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see if I'm sorry if I'm going to mispronounce this, but this is case number 23 CR 004-165F. Harry Berto Lorenzana Reyes. If I got at least the right person? Yes?
I know.
Do you speak English, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Didn't say
Is
it.
your first name Harry Berto?
Roberto
Say it again.
And,
Lorenzana Reyes.
okay, got that right. And Mr. Reyes, you've been accused of reckless conduct and the state has added another charge, which is discharge of a firearm on or near a public highway or street. Did this happen in his home?
Yes,
Ms.
Yes.
Bickerstaff, are we still going with that second charge?
Yes, we are still going forward with the second charge. The discharge of a firearm?
Yeah, that's, I didn't see that second, I'm sorry. Within 50 yards of Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, a public street, while he was inside the home.
No, he was outside of his, like he was at an apartment complex outside.
Oh, is that the allegation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
So, would you like to hear from pretrial first or?
Yes, I think I better. Mr. Howard, what was his prior arrest for?
Second arrest, 2018, criminal attempt to commit a felony, carrying a weapon within the school safety zone or function as a non-licensed holder. That's it.
All right. Yes, Ms. Bickerstaff?
Yes, so Your Honor, this incident occurred yesterday at 2800 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive at apartment G29. And this is where the defendant shot Miss Fernanda Navarro in the foot, or the defendant and Miss Navarro were in the back of their apartment firing a gun in the air because it was the 4th of July. And the defendant told officers that his gun jammed, and as he was attempting to unjam it, the gun discharged and it shot Miss Navarro in the ankle. Miss Navarro told officers that the incident was an accident and that they weren't arguing at the time that the gun went off. However, well, it's not a however, the defendant and Miss Navarro, they live together and they have a child together. We were able to speak with her today, Miss Navarro, and she let us know that she was looking down at her phone and then she felt the bullet scrape. She told our office that the bullet did not go in her foot, rather it grazed her foot. However, she did have to get stitches because the gun shot her in the foot. So for these reasons, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is a $20,000 surety bond, $10,000 for each charge, no further contact with Ms. Navarro, no firearms, and as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond, as well as to stay away from the incident location. If Ms. Navarro's on the Zoom call, I would like to sound for her.
I don't see, is there a Miss Navarro on Zoom? I don't see one. Miss Kim?
yes, Your Honor. My client is 22 years old. He was born in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, and he is residing with Fernanda Navarro at his uncle's place. He stays with his uncle and mother and his girlfriend. They all live together. My client has no other place to go if he cannot go back home, and he was hoping to have a no further violent contact. It was purely accident, and there was no intent. Your Honor, we would like to request for a signature on bond. If not, we would like to keep $5,000 surety bond as already set. It does not have to be increased. and he is currently employed. He works in Rock Construction. After graduating from high school, he's been working. Your Honor, we would like to request for a signature on bond. Thank you.
All right, thank you. On the reckless conduct is going to be a $5,000 surety bond. On the discharge of a firearm near the public highway, that's going to be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Reyes is not to possess any weapons or any firearms until further order of the court. So whether he's licensed or not, he cannot have a firearm on his person. He cannot have a firearm in any home in which he resides. He cannot have a firearm in any vehicle that he occupies, whether he's a passenger or a driver, or whether it's his vehicle or not. He cannot even be walking next to someone who carries a firearm unless it's a police officer. He can continue to reside at, I think it was 2800 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive in that apartment, as long as there are no firearms in that property. So if anybody else, any other occupant of that property owns a firearm, either Mr. Reyes has to go or the firearm has to go. So he can live there as long as there are no firearms in that property. So if Miss Fernanda owns a firearm, unfortunately, her firearm will have to take a sabbatical away from there. So she can make a choice if either she wants a gun with her or whether she wants Mr. Reyes with her. Mr. Reyes is to report to pretrial once a month. And if he gets arrested again, or if he's found in possession of a firearm while he's reporting to pretrial, pretrial is authorized to revoke that bond and it will be converted to a $5,000 cash bond only. His next court date will be July. So this will be a $10,000 split bond. Next court date is July 18th. If he doesn't live at the with Miss Fernanda at that location, he's to update us with his new address within 30 days of being released. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge, I have a question. Ms. Kim.
Okay, let's take one person at a time. Yes, Mr. Tucson, what's your
I was
question?
just saying it's per judge.
Yes, sir. All right, who is the next person with a question?
Hey, Ms. Kim. Can you give me my mom's phone number? No.
Yes.
This is Fernanda Navarro.
All right, you would need to appear by video. A phone would not be sufficient. All right. Okay, Ms. Kim, did you get that question from Mr. Reyes? He needs his mom to get the bond amount.
Like the phone number. I just need the phone number.
Okay, Ms. Kim, if you have his mother's number, that would help.
Yes, I'll get it from Miss. Sure.
And Ms.
I was going to actually get it from
your bandwidth is going in and out. Would it help if you leave the Zoom and come back in, or I'm not certain what's going on. Okay, and there's a person on a phone call on phone number 3732. Is that Miss Fernanda Reyes?
Yes, I'm trying to
Miss
join by
Fernanda
video right
Navarro.
now.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. Unfortunately, I cannot address you unless you appear by video. All right, so we're moving on to the next case, Deputy Principal.
Position number 3, Dixon.
Hold on. This is State versus Kaari Dixon, accused of battery, domestic violence from July 4th, 2023. The accusation is 23 CR 004-159A. Mr. Dixon, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Wills. And Mr. Howard, is that aggravated battery case still open? Or is that the probation case? I wasn't quite sure.
Probation.
Okay.
2021 battery conviction.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Bickerstaff?
Yes, Your Honor, with the 2021 conviction for battery, it was against this same victim, Miss Lucille Lewis in this case. And in that case, the defendant had a no further contact with Miss Lewis and to stay away from the same address, 386 Hopkins Street. Your Honor, let me give you the case number for that.
Is that the one ending in 935?
No, it's ending in, well, no, it's a different case number. It's 22 CR 003525J.
3525J.
Yes.
All right, I'm looking at SC 185,935. '23 SC.
Let me just double check this, or to find out that case. And is that for a battery, substantial physical harm?
No, just aggravated battery.
No, so the case number that I just gave you was for a battery, substantial harm, not the aggravated battery, no.
Okay.
But yes, so that in that case though, that was a different victim.
All right.
Mm.
And
But-
what is your bond recommendation for this one involving Miss Lewis?
Yes, so this one is a $3,000 cash bond, 1-day anger awareness course, no further contact with Miss Lewis, and to stay away from 386 Hopkins Street, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. Your Honor, our office was able to speak to Miss Lewis today, and she confirmed the events in the warrant that on yesterday, the defendant wanted to have sex with her, and when she denied him, he started to call her dumb and a stupid B word. And then while cursing at her, he put his finger in her eye and he started to aggressively poke her in the eye, and he scratched her in the face. Officers noted a scratch in the face due to his aggressive poking, and they noticed redness on her face. Your Honor, Miss Lewis let us know that she is afraid of the defendant and that she does not want him to return to the residence, and she would like for there to be a one-time police escort so that he can gather her his belongings. She also let us know that this is not the first time that this has happened, evident by the battery substantial physical harm conviction that he's had against her. So that's why the state's recommendation is what it is in this case.
As Miss Lucille Lewis on the Zoom? All right, no. Miss Wills?
Thank you, Judge. My client is 46 years old. He does not reside with Miss Lewis. He has resided in the Metro Atlanta area for the past 16 years. He is currently employed by Truist as a cook, and he's been employed there for the past 4 months. He does have a high school diploma and some college. He does deny the allegations as alleged. He does not want any contact with Miss Lewis, given that she has filed these false accusations against him on his birthday, which is today. I would ask for a signature on bond or a $1,000 surety bond. And Mr. Dixon does have some belongings at Miss Lewis's home, and so we would like to request a one-time police escort for him to gather anything that he has there.
If he does not live there, what belongings would he have?
I didn't ask him specifically what he had there, but he did say he had some things there.
And Miss Bickerstaff, what was that case number? I really couldn't.
Let me see.
The one in which you said that he has a no further contact?
Yes, I'm sorry, it's not 22, it's 21 CR 003525J.
Come on. What we were doing.
All right, and this was for battery causing substantial. So this was a misdemeanor case and it was disposed of on March 2nd. It looks like the balance was suspended by Judge Besson.
Yes. But it, yes, the balance was suspended, but it had a no further contact with Ms. Lewis on there.
12 months, 149 balance, to stay away from 386 Hopkins Street and no further contact with Lucille Lewis, signed off on August 2nd, March 2nd, 2023. All right, Ms. Wills, anything else to add?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. On the battery causing substantial physical harm is going to be a $15,000 surety bond.
Oh, no, Your Honor. This case was just the battery family violence, not the physical harm.
Yeah, the new one that I'm addressing. You've asked for a cash bond. I'm setting a $15,000 surety bond.
Okay.
Next court date is July 18th.
Excuse me, Your Honor, I'm confused as well. I show on the calendar that it's a battery family violence case.
Yeah, position number 3.
Yes, so that's the charge we're addressing, right?
Correct.
Okay, and what is that bond amount?
15,000, 15,000.
Is that a good bond?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No further contact with Lucille Lewis. Stay away from 386 Hopkins Street in Southwest Atlanta. No illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms, and no alcohol. Mr. Dixon, pursuant to the case that you had with Judge Besson back in March 2nd, 2023, you are required to stay 200 yards away from Lucille Lewis and stay away from 386 Hopkins Street. I'm not sure how you ended up at that location, but clearly it's a violation of a court order. So that's one of the reasons why it's a substantial bond, because apparently you have difficulty complying with stayaways and no further contact. You are to stay 200 yards away from Miss Lewis. You're not to communicate with her in any way, form, or manner, including any phone calls from the jail. You're also to stay away from 386 Hopkins Street. Based on your attorney's representation, you do not live at that location. So I am not going to permit any one-time visit to that location. If you have any personal belongings there, Ms. Lewis can certainly pack those up and have those sent to a police precinct for you to pick up, but you're not to return to that location. This is now a second court order requiring you to stay away from that location. Your next court date is going to be July 18th. Thank you.
Position 4, English.
Christopher English is accused of criminal trespass. As soon as he gets seated and put on the mask. Case number is 23 CR 004-163Y. This is a trespass from July 4th. Mr. English, this appears to be your 32nd arrest cycle, and you're in probation for, you have a felony probation at the present time. Anything else to add, Mr. Howard?
2022 shoplifting, 2021 he had a couple of probation violations, as well as 2020 probation FTA, shoplifting conviction 2018.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Eggers, what's your recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. The state on this charge is recommending $1,000 surety bond, a stay away from the incident location, 478 Woodward Avenue, Hapeville, a no contact with the victim, Ms. Kathy Adams, and a no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on probation. And if Ms. Adams is on the line, would like to sound for her at this time.
Ms. Kathy Adams? None? Anything else, Mr. Eggers?
We are recommending this, making this bond recommendation based on his numerous cycles, and also the fact that He has probation violations that are open. He's also on felony probation. So he doesn't appear to be cooperating with authorities in the last several years.
Thank you. Ms. Wills?
Thank you, Judge. My client is 35 years old. He is a native of Atlanta. He is currently unemployed and also somewhat residentially challenged. And so I have requested that a social worker visit with him in regards to that. The alleged victim in this case is his aunt, but he does understand that he needs to stay away from her residence. I would request a signature on bond. If Your Honor is not so inclined, I would ask that his bond not be any greater than $500.
Next. Bond set at $1,000 is a surety bond. He's not to return to 478 Woodrow Avenue in Hapeville. He has to stay at least 200 yards away from that location. He is not permitted a one-time visit. There is no one-time visit. He cannot return to that house at all. He's also to have no contact with Kathy with the C, Adams. He's not to communicate with her either in person, through a third party, through a computer or a phone, even from the jail, no calls. And his next court date is going to be July 18th. Thank you.
Judge Law, I'm sorry, I stepped away. What is the bond amount?
$1,000 surety bond,
Thank
stay
you.
away and no contact.
You said my next court date is the 18th.
July, yes,
I stay in here until then.
unless you make bond,
So what was the point in coming to here then?
so that you can hear my lovely voice. Thank
Yeah,
you.
whatever. I'm ready to go. I don't want to see you again.
Well, you go ahead.
Have a seat.
Have a seat.
You don't want to. So much.
Next is gonna be the add-on position number 1, Mr. Brown.
Deputy Francois, what about position 9, Stephen Sotelo? And,
Position 9 is gonna be a waiver of appearance.
okay. Sorry, let's get to the add-on calendar. And I'm sorry, did you say this is Mr. Brown or Mr. Powell?
I think she said Brown.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, he said Brown.
Brown, okay. So Mr. Brown's case number is 23 CR 004166C, in which he's accused of simple battery from a June 30th, 2023 incident. Mr. Brown, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Wills.
This is a 4th arrest. Last was 2020 battery. We got an open case in state court for DUI, failure to maintain lane and proper lane change. 2015 domestic battery conviction. That was in another state.
Which one?
The domestic battery conviction.
No, which state?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't write it down.
Okay.
I'll look it up real quick unless state
Thank
knows it up by hand.
It's Illinois.
Was it?
Your
Illinois? Okay, thank you. And Mr. Eggers, what do you recommend for Mr. Malik Brown?
On this case, we are recommending, the state is recommending a $2,000 surety bond, a no further contact with the victim, Gwendolyn Little. She was giving him an Uber ride, and him and the passenger were behaving terribly and became belligerent. She asked them to get out of the car, and when that occurred, one of the other passenger grabbed her phone and they started fighting, and then the defendant pushed her. And so for that reason, this occurred. The address location was 1545 Northside Drive, Atlanta, which I looked up, I think might be a Chevron gas station. So we would ask him to stay away from that location, and then no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. Ms. Wills?
My client is 31 years old. He has resided in the state of Georgia for the past 5 years. He is currently employed and will not qualify to be represented by the Public Defender's Office. He has a high school diploma as well as some college. He does deny the allegations as alleged. He states that he was in an Uber with a friend and that his friend was engaged in an argument with the Uber driver. He asked the driver to pull over so that they both could exit the vehicle, but he never had any physical or verbal disagreements or altercations with the driver. There is no risk of reoffense, as this is a person who's basically unknown to my client. And so of course we have no objection to no further contact. The location where he was at is just a random place on the street where the Uber driver pulled over. I would request a signature bond, and if Your Honor is not so inclined, I would ask that his bond be set at $1,000.
And
Yes, Ms. Vegas?
Your Honor, also, if Ms. Little is on the line, the state would like to sound for her at this time.
That would be Gwendolyn Little?
Yes, I'm here, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Little, my name is Judge Law. If you want to say something, may I place you under oath?
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, go ahead. What would you like to tell me?
Well, on July 30th, the location was actually a Chevron's gas station.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that date again? July 30th?
July 30th, right. It was.
Think about what you just said.
I'm sorry, June 30th. Thank you.
Okay.
The pickup location was at a Chevron gas station. Responded to a request to be picked up. The two individuals ran over to my car and they were verbally loud at each other. They had something else going on. And as they got into my vehicle, I immediately said, hey, we're going to use our inside voice and you're going to stop all that cussing because we're not going to ride this way. I don't want to hear your conversation like that. So please turn it down. Mr. Brown and his companion, female companion, got really vulgar with their conversation and F you, I paid for this ride and blah, 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 blah. I didn't even get out of the gas station parking lot. There was a police officer across the street at a construction site. He came across to the gas station. I just pulled my car up alongside of them and asked the two to get out of my car. They became even more verbally abusive towards me, called me all kind of old MFs and that they was going to kick my old MF butt. At that time, Mr. Brown had gotten out of my car. His companion had reached up to my window shield and grabbed my cell phone off the holder. We did not get into an altercation. I reached into the back seat, grabbed my cell phone from her. Mr. Brown was outside and the police officer was up to the car at the time, calling me a man, talking about he wasn't going to let no man hit on his girlfriend and all this obscene conversation. I am 100% woman. And that's when he pushed me. And I told him I wanted to push charges against them. They started complaining about I owed them money. When in fact, when you cancel a trip with Uber, payments start. I think I got $4.58 a cancellation fee for that drive. And I want to tell Mr. Brown that his action was not acceptable. I did nothing to provoke him to become so verbally and insulting and intimidating me the way that he did, because I am a senior. He thought that he would get away with it. He put his hands on me. I did not provoke that either. I was getting my cell phone from his companion that was still sitting in my car at the time.
Have you retrieved your cell phone?
Yes, I did. I was able to retrieve my cell phone. I threw her, she had some stuff that was sitting on my back seat while the police and everybody was still there. I threw her stuff out to her on the ground. She made comment of me destroying her property. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Just hand it to you?
I really don't need a blow-by-blow account. I just need to know whether you retrieve your personal belongings and that you're otherwise uninjured.
Yes, I am.
That's all I really need to know right at this juncture.
Okay.
Okay. The only question I have to decide is bond, and I can move on from there. All right. Ms. Wills, what's your recommendation? And yes, Mr. Brown, I do see your hand up. I'll let you speak in a few moments. Thank you.
I would ask for a signature bond or a $1,000 bond. Mr. Brown, you don't need to address anything that was said today. It's just your bond hearing. You'll have the opportunity to fight these charges at a later date. Anything you say can and will be used against you, so I do not advise that you say anything today, especially before the judge gives her ruling. Likely won't be in your benefit or favor.
All right. Mr. Brown, did you have something to add?
I did. So I wasn't aware that I had a battery charge
Did
because
you hear your attorney?
no, so I'm telling you, she told I was aware
Did
that
you hear what your attorney said to you?
yes, but can I just
So
reiterate?
do you want to waive your right to remain silent?
I just wanted to know because these are new cases brought on me. I'm confused. I'm just asking a question.
So, Your Honor, he was under the impression when we spoke, and because he was an add-on, I did not have his warrant information. And at the time I spoke with him, the calendar had not been released, so he believed he had been charged with disorderly conduct. And so this is.
He's correct. He's correct. He was originally charged with disorderly conduct, and the case was bound over from the City Court of Atlanta. And the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County, that's the prosecutor of Fulton County, has upgraded the charge from disorderly conduct to what it is today. Was it simple battery, wasn't it?
Yes, a simple battery.
Yeah.
And I did want to note on my client's behalf that he has been incarcerated for 5 days. He was arrested Friday, and so he has been incarcerated since that time.
Understood. Didn't he have a bind over at the City Court of Atlanta?
Your Honor.
No, I'm not asking you, Mr. Brown.
Okay.
This is a question for your attorney.
She doesn't know. I'm the only one that
In
knows.
that case, no, you wouldn't be the only person who knows. So.
Well, they bonded me over. They didn't have my paperwork because the police messed up my paperwork. So they had to take me back to the city jail. So I've been in the city jail for 5 days, and I've been here. This makes the 6th day I've been here at the county jail.
Your Honor, if I may, he was bound over from municipal court, but was not granted a bond.
The case was bound over on June 30th, 2023. He had his probable cause matter before Judge Alison Pitt on June 30th. And at which time he was not granted a bond on the misdemeanor. I'm not certain why, but the case was then bound over to the State Court of Fulton County.
Your
So
Honor,
this-
according
this
to the
isn't-
bind over, my apologies.
This is not a Riverside issue.
No, I agree. I was just letting the court know. You said we weren't sure why it was bound over without a bond. According to the paperwork, it did say they referred it as a felony. It did not go up as a felony, but that's on the paperwork that I observed. At the bottom, they were referring it up as a felony.
All right, I mean, if that's what the information you received, I just got information, it's a misdemeanor, and it was set at no bond, and it was on June 30th. So this is not a Riverside issue. Ms. Wills, anything else to add?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Brown, do you still wish to say something or rationally exercise your right to remain silent?
I guess I'll just be quiet, I guess.
Good move. Bond is set at $1,000 surety bond, and the charge is been upgraded from disorderly conduct to simple battery for Mr. Brown. No further contact with Gwendolyn Little, and to refrain from using any kind of Uber vehicle in which Miss Gwendolyn Little is the driver. He's to stay 200 yards away from Miss Little, not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. And he's not to possess any weapons or firearms. No consumption of illegal drugs. His next court date is going to be July 18th. And Ms. Bridgewater, we're going to reset this case as well as this other case 22 CR 001950C. I believe he's got an FTA in that case.
Okay, I'll set it for that same day.
Yeah, and that would be his 2 cases. He's got a failure to appear before Judge Dixon on the DUI case.
I have a lawyer for that. The lawyer's been taking care of it, so I have to get in touch with him.
Excellent move. Thank you. All right, next case, please.
Position 2 on the add-on, Mr. Powell.
This is State versus Bryant Powell, 23 CR 4169E, in which Mr. Powell's been accused of battery from June 5th, 2023. Mr. Powell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Howard? I don't have the add-on information.
A third arrest, last was 2021, trespass out of Forsyth County, Nolo. Got an open Superior Court case for ag assault, possession of a firearm or knife during the commission. 22 CP 208182.
208
182.
182. Okay. Ms. Falk, what's the bond recommendation for Mr. Powell?
Yes, Your Honor. I do want to briefly go over the facts of this case because I want to make a full record on this. So this incident began June 5th, 2023 at Tropical Smoothie Cafe at 625 Crossville Road in Roswell. There is a theft by taking felony warrant that went upstairs as a result of this case and received a $2,500 surety bond. However, the DA's office declined to take the battery that was also part of this case. Ms. Sarah McConnell stated that her daughter, Lauren McConnell, had her keys and vehicle taken by the defendant, who is Lauren McConnell's ex-boyfriend. She stated she was in a verbal argument with Mr. McConnell because she wouldn't pay his probation fees, and the defendant grabbed Ms. McConnell's arm and punched her, leaving visible bruising, and that came from Ms. Lauren McConnell. Ms. Lauren McConnell then told police that the defendant snatched the keys from the ignition and told Ms. McConnell to get the F out of the car. Ms. McConnell stated she entered her job at Tropical Smoothie Cafe and noticed the defendant had left with her vehicle. I want to point out that when police spoke to Ms. Sarah McConnell, Ms. Lauren McConnell's mother, she stated there had been domestic disputes between Lauren McConnell and the defendant in the past. Ms. Lauren McConnell also told the police that she was scared for her life and didn't know what the defendant was going to do. Later that day, the officers were called back out to 3305 Hutchinson Road in Cumming, Georgia. The defendant was banging on the door and threatening Ms. Lauren McConnell. When the officers arrived, they saw the missing vehicle had been returned and the defendant was no longer present, and they did observe the bruises to Ms. Lauren McConnell's arm, consistent with her statement. I will point out, Your Honor, that despite the fact that Ms. Sarah McConnell indicated to police there had been previous disputes, despite the fact that Ms. Lauren McConnell indicated to police that she was afraid for her life, she is subsequently, since this date, recanted. I will say that even based on that, the state does have some serious concerns here based on the nature of the offense, as well as the reports that came from Ms. Lauren and Sarah McConnell. However, the defendant has now been in custody since July 2nd, and therefore we did talk to PD Kim at length to try to come to some agreement as to the bond. We are recommending a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial services. The sticking point for the state is we are asking for no further contact whatsoever with Ms. Lauren McConnell. We are also asking for a stay away from Tropical Smoothie Cafe, where Ms. McConnell works at 625 West Crossville Road, as well as a stay away from Ms. McConnell's home at 3305 Hutchinson Road. And I can put that apartment number and address into the system, into the chat from the litigation manager in Cumming, Georgia. We are showing that this defendant is currently out on a $20,000 surety bond from April 11th, 2022. That case is 22 CP 208182, where the defendant was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and possession of a firearm during commission of a felony. He also has a conviction for criminal trespass and Forsyth on March 9th, 2023. We would at this time like to sound for Lauren McConnell.
Ms. Falk, does he have a Gwinnett hold? I see a Gwinnett hold.
Your Honor, I can double check. I believe he may, but let me just check that while you sound for Ms. McConnell.
She's here. She's on the Zoom.
Okay.
I've got a notice here from Roswell PD to Roswell PD from Gwinnett County. I don't know whether this is an expired hold or whether it's a current hold. Mr.
I will say I do not see the hold on the jail screen, but you are right. I do see the above subject will be transported to the Gwinnett County Jail. But I am not sure if that hold is still valid. But I can check into that.
Mr. Howard, do you have any indication that he's got a current Gwinnett County hold?
No, let me check.
Okay. All right, Ms. McConnell, if you would like to add to this case, I need to place you under oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony provided will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, what would you like to tell us?
So my mother has had an issue with Bryant since we first started dating. She's extremely racist and has made up a bunch of false allegations against him.
Is your mother here right now?
No, she's not.
Okay, so I'm not going to engage in that conversation.
Okay. Well, nothing happened in front of Tropical Smoothie. He has never once hit me. He has never injured me in any way. I'm not afraid of him at all. He is my boyfriend. We are still together. So the ex-boyfriend comment was not true. And I never spoke to the police, and my mother, during the interactions we had with the police, kept saying, oh, she's too young, she's hysterical, like just talk to me. So she was talking on my behalf, which I did not want and I didn't allow. And so the allegations she has made against Bryant are false. And I can attest to that. And we've been trying to get these charges dropped, but Roswell PD wouldn't drop the warrants until he went through like the bond hearing process. And so she has also agreed to try to get these charges dropped because she knows that she lied on these allegations. And so I just wanted to make that clear that nothing happened. And him taking my car, we always do that. I've given him permission on multiple occasions for him to take my car while I'm at work. So he did not steal it. I gave him the keys that day. I said, you can drive it. And he always keeps me updated on where he is. So there is no theft and there was no assault that occurred during those incidents.
Who has title to the car?
My mom has the main title. I'm just the co-signer on it.
So your mother is the primary title holder?
Yes, ma'am.
And does she give permission to the defendant to drive the car?
She has before, but on this particular day, she did not.
Okay. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 23 years old and he wants to have a contact with his girlfriend. Other than that, we do not have anything else to ask for. No further violent contact is the only thing that he would like to have. This incident happened, if it ever happened, June 5, 2023. My client denies the allegation. There was no violence between them. Even though there was enough time to cool down. So we would like to request for signature on bond through pretrial. We understand that part. No further violent contact. Thank you.
All right.
Your Honor, if I may, I do have a question for Ms. McConnell.
Go ahead.
Ms. McConnell?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm reading in the warrant where it says Lauren explained that she had not called 911 at the time of the incident because she was scared for her life and didn't know what Powell was going to do. So what you're telling this court is where the officers are saying you said something directly, you are denying that you spoke to the officers directly.
Yes, I did not tell them that. The only thing I told them that was he was here that day and we had a conversation and we talked, and then my mom interjected into the conversation and said, no, this is what actually happened. She's lying. Like, let me tell you, when I was telling the truth and she was the one who was making up false accusations.
And you do understand that these interviews are most likely recorded on body cam?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all for the state, Your Honor.
All right. Bond is set at $1,000. It is a surety bond. No further violent contact with Lauren McConnell. No further contact with Sarah McConnell. he's to stay away from the business, the smoothie shop at 625 Crossville Road. He's not allowed at that location. And I'm sorry, I do see a Gwinnett hole. So even if he makes the bond, he would have to be released to the Gwinnett hole if one does exist.
Your Honor,
I will just say that due to the time frame, the state could not ask for a surety bond.
yes, Your Honor. It's
Oh, that's right. You all had agreed to a signature bond. I'm so sorry. We got caught up with all the other narrative. $10,000 signature bond through pretrial.
Per judge.
But I guess, can't you say per Falk, per Miss Falk? Okay.
Nah, they gonna put you on the hook for it. It's per judge.
Salty got me into deep trouble here. Okay. Same conditions, no further contact with Sarah McConnell and no violent contact with Lauren McConnell, and stay away from that particular business. And the $10,000 signature bond through pretrial is only with a release to the Gwinnett County hold if there is one right now.
Judge, I didn't see a hole.
You don't?
I don't.
I did reach out to jail records with the pages that Your Honor was referring to find out if there is in fact an active hold. But I have not received a response as of this time.
I mean, I'm looking at his intake documents. It's sitting right here. So all I'm saying is a release to the Gwinnett County hold if one exists.
Yes, Your Honor. And again, we would like to renew just our request for a no further contact.
Well, I am granting that only with regards to Sarah McConnell, but I'm Ms. Lauren McConnell. Like you say, Ms. Falk, if there's body cam footage to the contrary, then y'all have different options with regards to Lauren McConnell.
Yeah, sure.
As I was saying, I don't know whether this is the hold I'm seeing at the intake documents.
Yes, Your Honor, and that is the paperwork that we sent over to the jail just to confirm. But I think what pretrial is speaking of is the jail hold is not showing on the screen when you the jail screen.
Was he arrested in Gwinnett and Fulton County came and got him?
I'm not.
Okay, see, he holding up a thumbs up. That's what that is. Yeah, he don't have a hold. He was wanted in Fulton.
Well, I was wanted in Fulton, but they arrested me at my house in Lawrenceville. They took me to Gwinnett and they transferred me to Fulton County.
Yeah, that's what that warrant shows right there.
Okay. All right. Then that resolves that $10,000 signature bond through pretrial. Mr. Powell, if you don't report to pretrial once a month, or if you get arrested again for anything else, this $10,000 signature bond will be converted to a surety bond or a cash bond, depending on the situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
I think, did we have one case left for non-appearance?
The only
Yes.
case left, Judge, is the waive appearance, which is position number 9.
Okay, let me just quickly go down the calendar and then we'll address position number 9. Position 1, BB.
We're gone. We're completed.
Okay, you're good then. All right. Thank you, Francois. We'll see you later.
All right. See you later. Thanks.
Okay, position number 9, Ms. Kim, is that your case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And
so-
I do have the waiver.
All right, thank you. This is Stephen Sotelo, 23 CR 004151D, accused of criminal trespass from July 3rd, 2023. Looks like he's got a companion case, 23 CR 3393D. And Mr. Howard, I think you sent me his priors on this one. Mr. Sotelo, this is his 7th arrest.
Correct.
All right, and he appears to have an open case, which is the one I just mentioned. 2022 FTA. Ms. Bickerstaff, what's your recommendation for this trespass charge?
Yes, Your Honor, just quickly, on July 3rd of this year, the defendant was previously given a criminal trespass warning at the Capitol building grounds at 2 MLK Jr. MLK Drive. And then on July 3rd of this year, the defendant returned to that property. So for those reasons, the state's recommendation is a $1,500 surety bond and to stay away from Capitol Hill grounds at 2 MLK Drive, as well as an MHET and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. Ms. Kim, is an evaluation called for in this case?
I believe BHET is sufficient at this point. I requested social worker to visit him, hopefully before 2 p.m. However, it didn't happen before 2 p.m. So most likely BHET.
All right. Bond is set at $1,000 is a surety bond to stay 200 yards away from all property belonging to the Georgia State Capitol. I put a street, but they have 4 streets surrounding them, so just the entire Gold Dome. Next court date is July 18th, and this is subject to an evaluation to be conducted or requested. If you request an evaluation, then we may have to put the case off longer, pending the results of the evaluation.
I was wondering if we can put for competency calendar.
Oh, yeah. Are you requesting the evaluation today?
Just BHET, Your Honor, not NHET, but behavioral health evaluation that we can kind of determine whether he needs full MHET or not.
Okay, so I'll put it for July 18th at, well, let me just check and see. July 18th is okay, it will have to be July 20th at 11 a.m.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If I could add briefly, I looked up Mr. Sotelo because his name was familiar, and he already is in the competency court. He was actually added on in June 1st, based on my email. So it seems he's already on that track.
Do you know if he's got another court date? I hate to say this, but that name sounded familiar to me too, so.
That I do not. I just searched through my emails earlier when I saw his last name.
Let's see. Well, if he's in the competent, but he was released, so he's been out, so he's not been put back in on the SAP competency, but he may be with mental health court. Is that your understanding, Ms. Wills?
I have very limited understanding. I just saw his name was he was an add-on to the June 1st competency calendar.
Yes, yes, he was. And he was released on June 8th, 2023. So he's going to be back on the competency, SAP competency calendar. Okay.
So do I put him on for the SAP the 18th or the competency for the 20th?
20th competency, 11
Okay.
a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So going back over the calendar, position number 1, BB, was $1,000 surety, July 18th. Position 2, Bells, a $2,500 surety, July 18th. Position 3 is a $1,500 surety bond, reset July 18th. Position 4, English, is $1,000 surety, reset July 18th. Position 5 and 6 are each $1,100 split bond, both cases reset July 18th. Position 7 is a $10,000 split bond.
Is that 5 and 5?
5 and 5, 5,000 surety for the reckless conduct and 5,000 signature bond through pretrial for the count 2. And that's reset to July 18th. Position 8 is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial. Position 9, Sotelo, is July 20th at 11 a.m. competency calendar. Position 10, Thomas, is a $3,000 signature bond through the jail. And then on the add-on calendar, position 1, Brown, is $1,000 surety, reset July 18th. And Powell's $1,000 surety bond, excuse me, $10,000 signature bond through pretrial for the notice.
And number 3, you said 1,500. Wasn't that 15,000?
Did I forget to write a second 0? Yes, you're right, 15,000.
All right.
All right, other than that one mistake, any others? No? All right.
An interesting day.
It will continue. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. And we will see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Thank you.
Goodbye.